Okay, in this video, I just want to talk about a more complicated thing about gain staging within the DAW and the amount of headroom you potentially have got on certain channels and the order of plugins as well, depending on the channels you're using. What I have set up are 10 audio tracks, all with an oscillator. They're all playing the same frequency. These meters are set to K20 as are the submixes because they are part of the same thing. The master channels, they are set to K12. The way I've got it routed is that these audio channels are going through to the submix, which is located here, and then straight to the main out so that you can hear. There you go. There's the sine wave. But just to kind of show you what's going on, I've got this send, and that is pushing out to this channel here, to bus 4344. And that's being picked up on this master fader. The reason why is I want to be able to demonstrate what happens visually to the master fader for you without actually hearing it, so you don't actually damage your hearing and have any potential problems. Also, I'm going to be showing you the fact that all these channels here and the submix, the plugins are all what we call pre-fade, so they are in line. So anything you put on this channel, it all happens before you get down to this fader. Now, on the master channel, the plugins are post fader. So essentially, it works in backwards, that the audio comes in and it goes to this fader first before it hits the plugins and then gets bounced out. And it's going to be important to remember that later, and I'll show you why in a bit. At the moment, they're playing at sort of minus 20 or 0, which is what I've set it to then. And what I'm going to do is with these trims, each one of these channels has got a plus 12 dB boost. So I'm going to unbypass them. Does help if I select them all. So do this. There we go. So now all these channels have got a plus 12 dB boost. And we can see coming in here that it's pushing this compressor harder. If I turn the compressor off, you'll see that actually it's really slamming into distortion. And if I do the same again, hit bypass, there we go. So all these channels here, essentially, because it's showing 4.4, essentially that's 4 over 20. So we're actually 24 dB over 0. And you can then see that because this one is set to minus 12, therefore it's showing that it's over that as well. So it's the submix, we are at plus 13. And I'm going to turn this compressor off here. You can see what would happen to the master fader. Absolutely smashed. And that would then lead to a mix being incredibly distorted, which is a big no-no. So what can we do about this? Well, I can show you that actually, if I apply this trim control and basically lower the gain, you'll start to see in a minute that now that signal is dropping. So I'm going to take it down to, again, to this say sort of point here. In theory you'd think is that we should have a really distorted sound, but because of the virtual headroom within the submix in these channels here, when I lift this up, it still sounds like a sine wave. It sounds like a pure sine wave. It's not distorted, it's not clipped, it's not square waved. And if I just turn that compressor off as well, so there's no impact whatsoever. So our signal is good. What I can do is now I could apply a compressor. So I could do that and put the compressor on. Now, obviously, you see, because the compressor's got a huge amount of input coming into it from off all these channels, what I can do is just sort of lower the threshold somewhat. Again, that's still incredibly hot. Again, using my trim control, I can then bring us back up to kind of meet that 0. And it's still clean, no distortion. Okay. Now, if I was to then treat now, so that's showing pre-fade. Now, if I adjust this fader, what would actually happen on the master fader, if I'm going to do it with this one actually, if I adjust this here, it adjusts what's going out to this channel. So if I was finding that my output was getting too loud, I could adjust this and make it so that it doesn't affect my master. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to adjust that up. So at the moment, there's my master channel. It's in the red. So if I'm going to use this fader to kind of act like this one, because that's the send one, I'm going to bring that down, and I can bring that and bring it back in control and in line. Still sounds clean and pure. So it still sounds good. Now, if I was then to put the compressor on this channel here, like this here, I'm going to use it on this one actually, because that's my example. Now, here you go. You can see that there's signal coming in. And if I compare it with this one on this channel, shift click. So the one on the right is my master fader, and the one on the left is my submix. If I pull the fader on this, you'll notice that actually there is still signal going to my compressor and it's unaffected because the signal is coming through that compressor first before it's getting to this fader. However, if I adjust the compressor on, if I adjust the master fader here and reduce it because I want to reduce the output, you'll see that it's affecting how the compressor behaves. So what does it really mean? Essentially, when it comes to doing your mixing, if by creating a submix and getting all the channels to route into this channel first, I'm just going to hide these now as the example. So I'm just going to select those two. When you're mixing, ideally what you want to do is to mix into a submix with any compression and EQ and things like that on here. If your signal is starting to clip and show into the red on the master fader, you can adjust this fader and then you'll still be fine. So if I bring that up, it's still fine, and you're still not going to get any issues with clipped signals. Okay, so it's a little bit of time to get your head around, but the thing to do and ensure is that when you're setting up, is that before you have your master fader, set up an auxiliary, call that your submix, send all your channels and your effects and everything through the submix, okay, and then that goes to your output. That gives you the virtual headroom and everything like that, and you won't, or should I say, you have less chance of clipping your sound when it comes to bouncing out your projects.